After a month of waiting, Netflix has released the last 4 episodes of the 3rd season of Bridgerton, and oh my god, this finale has unleashed a lot of speculation. But well, that's something we'll discuss in another video. Before we start, remember that you also have the summary of the first part on the channel, as well as the story of Colin and Penelope according to the books. Now, this is the summary of Bridgerton Season 3, Part 2. Picking up the story where we left off, Colin has just proposed to Penelope after certain events. Penelope, of course, accepts his proposal, and they both go to the Bridgerton house to give the good news to the family. Of course, everyone is happy, except Eloise, who remember is still upset with Penelope. She asks her friend if her future husband already knows the truth about her identity, and upon receiving a no for an answer, demands that she tell him, to which Penelope promises she will. Meanwhile, all of London is surprised to discover, through Lady Whistledown, the unexpected engagement between Penelope and Colin. Anthony and Kate return from their honeymoon with the surprise that they are expecting a baby, although they decide to keep the news to themselves upon hearing all the controversy surrounding Colin's engagement and Francesca's new relationship. On the other hand, Cressida tells Eloise that, having failed in her plan to win over Lord Debling, her father has decided to marry her off to Lord Creer, a much older man whose interest is to lock her up in his house and make her have 4 or 5 children. Another person who seems to have found out about the new engagement thanks to Lady Whistledown is Portia Featherington, who scolds her daughter for not having been the one to give her the news herself. She tells her that the engagement to Colin is madness, since she doesn't believe it's true that the most desirable man of the season is in love with her. She then asks if he has told her that he loves her, to which Penelope responds, hurt that no, at least not in those words. Portia continues questioning her, insinuating that she has trapped Colin to tie him to her, but just then, the man in question arrives, bursting into the room and defending his feelings for Penelope in front of her mother, affirming that he loves her and is not willing to allow his feelings to be doubted. Later, Colin takes Penelope to their new house where they will live once they are married. She then asks him if he is sure of his feelings, if he really loves her, and in response, he tells her everything he loves about her. Then he undresses her, while they both look at each other in a mirror, and after that, they make love for the first time. Meanwhile, the Queen issues a statement declaring that she will give a reward of £5,000 to anyone who exposes Lady Whistledown's identity. Colin, who reads the news to Penelope, is happy with the idea of someone unmasking the writer, unaware that she is sitting right next to him. Later, Colin tries to talk to his sister about his engagement to Penelope, but she continues to be hostile on the subject. However, her demeanor changes when Colin shows her Queen Charlotte's statement. That night, during the engagement party, Eloise pressures Penelope to tell her brother the truth, threatening to tell him herself if he does not learn the truth before midnight. On the other hand, Cressida, who has self-invited to the party, tells Eloise her plan. She will try to discover Lady Whistledown to claim the reward and flee to Vienna. However, upon discovering that the author could be free and not forced to marry if her identity were revealed, Cressida decides it's a better idea to pretend to be her. So, she declares in front of everyone that she is Lady Whistledown, and minutes later, Penelope faints, the result of a panic attack. The next day, Francesca and John inform the family that they have decided to get married, and Colin gives Penelope an engagement ring. Then he talks to Eloise, who tries to tell him the truth, but seeing how much it would hurt him, she decides to visit Penelope and ask her to stop writing so that everyone believes Cressida is Lady Whistledown. Cressida, for her part, writes a publication pretending to be Lady Whistledown in order to convince the Queen that she is telling the truth. But when she seems to start believing her, Eloise and Penelope decide that the real Whistledown must return before the truth is discovered. Meanwhile, Lady Danbury argues with her brother and lets him know that the reason she hates him is because, in the past, he told their parents when she tried to run away from home to avoid marriage, even though he was only 10 years old. Penelope writes the new Lady Whistledown publication, and that same night travels to the printing press so that the magazine is released first thing in the morning, but when she tries to leave the place, she runs into Colin, who has followed her and now knows that she is Lady Whistledown. Penelope tries to explain what happened, but he refuses to listen and leaves the place. The next day, 2 gossip sheets are released, one written by Cressida, or rather her mother, who questions the legitimacy of the Bridgerton children, and another by Penelope, which cleverly debunks Cressida. Lady Violet, for her part, receives a visit from Lord Anderson, who communicates his intentions to court her, but she replies that he must first solve his problem with Lady Danbury so that they can both move forward. That night, after visiting Madame Delacroix, Penelope meets Colin. He reproaches her for the things she wrote about him, Marina, and Eloise when she was Lady Whistledown, and she explains that she thought she was protecting them, that she didn't have the courage to speak, so she used the pseudonym to do so. He then tells her that now that she has more confidence in herself, she should stop, but she refuses, and after sharing a passionate kiss, they separate, waiting to meet the next day at the altar. The wedding goes smoothly. Colin and Penelope say their vows, and after this, they finally say, "I do." During the party, Anthony and Kate talk about her home in India, and together decide to travel so that their baby is born there. Meanwhile, Colin and Penelope share a dance, but are interrupted by Queen Charlotte, who questions the Bridgertons about Lady Whistledown's identity, although Francesca takes the opportunity to tell her that she and John are engaged. Colin, seeing his family in danger, gets angry with Penelope again for putting them in such a situation and asks her to leave Lady Whistledown, but she refuses again. Benedict, for his part, is involved in a love triangle with which he shares nights of passion, ignoring any kind of commitment. On the other hand, Cressida's father has informed her that she must go to the countryside with a family aunt, so she, desperate, starts going around all the printing houses in the city looking for information about Lady Whistledown's identity. She finally meets a young man who gives her enough information to know for sure that Penelope is the one she is looking for. The next day, Cressida visits Penelope and threatens her in front of Portia, telling her that she will reveal her identity as Lady Whistledown if she doesn't pay her £10,000. Portia and Penelope travel to the Bridgerton house, where they meet Colin and Eloise. They tell them what happened, and Colin decides that he will be the one to talk to Cressida, but only manages to make the girl angrier and demand double the money, as well as insist that Lady Whistledown fix her reputation by speaking well of her in the magazine. On the other hand, Lady Danbury tells Violet that she has already fixed her relationship with her brother, and now has his blessing to be together, even though she never asked Violet's blessing to be with her father. The next day, Portia receives a visit from the lawyer, who announces that they have discovered that the Featherington family is using the money from Jack's fraud, so the title will soon be taken away from them. At the Bridgerton house, John and Francesca celebrate their wedding, and she tells her mother that she will go to live in Scotland with John. That same day, Penelope tells Colin that she already knows how she will solve the problem, and asks him to show her his support by loving her. Then, she writes a letter to Queen Charlotte. She has made a decision, and there is no turning back. Benedict, for his part, meets Tilly, who confesses that she has started to have feelings for him and wants them to have a more serious and exclusive relationship. He, however, tells her that his relationship with the three of them has expanded his mind, and now he only wants to enjoy his freedom. Shortly after, Prudence and Philippa organize a ball, financed by Penelope, although they don't know it, but the party is interrupted by Queen Charlotte, who calls for Lady Whistledown, who has been summoned to that place. Penelope steps forward and walks to the center of the dance floor. She then gives a speech in which she apologizes and confesses, with courage and pride, that she is Lady Whistledown, then asks Queen Charlotte to allow her to continue writing but using her real name. The Queen agrees, and everyone celebrates the event by releasing butterflies that fly freely around the place. Lady Danbury approaches Penelope and confesses that she knew her identity because she was the only person who loved the Bridgertons as much as she did. Then, Penelope tells her mother that she will talk to the lawyer and tell him that the money does not belong to Cousin Jack, but comes from her earnings as Lady Whistledown. She then approaches Colin and tells him that she will understand if he wants to annul the marriage, since, although she was accepted by the Queen, she now has many enemies because of everything she said as Lady Whistledown. Colin rejects the idea of separating from her and tells her that he now understands that Penelope and Lady Whistledown are one and the same and that he is fortunate to have her. Meanwhile, Eloise asks Francesca to let her go to Scotland with her for a year, and she agrees. Then, they are interrupted by John, who introduces them to his cousin, Michaela Sterling, who will accompany them to Scotland. We take a leap in time and see 3 babies being carried by their mothers, Prudence, Philippa, and Penelope, revealing that Penelope and Colin have had a boy, or rather, the future Lord Featherington, thus saving the family title. Penelope, for her part, continued writing, but now signed as Penelope Bridgerton, and not as Lady Whistledown, and Colin, for his part, published his first book based on his travels around the world. And well, this was the summary of the second part of Bridgerton Season 3. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this season finale. Remember, if you like these kinds of videos, the best way to support me is by leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. See you in the next video.